Welcome to CCNN. I'm Paul Martin, part of the client experience team. I've been working here for the last 6 years doing support, so a lot of you guys who have come on the live chat or called into us over the years have talked to me. We've had a few of you reach out to us recently about some fraudulent orders, so in this week's episode we're going to cover fraud and some of the things that we know that you can look out for to prevent it. First off, I do have to give kind of a disclaimer. Since we aren't a credit card processing company and we are not fraud experts, we can't really be liable for fraud in your system, but there are things over the years that we've seen through fraudulent orders that have been reported to us, patterns we've seen that we can share with you. But if you want a more sophisticated fraud detection system, you might want to look into Authorize.net's fraud detection suite. It's an extra charge you can get on your Authorize.net account that you might find useful. The first thing we see with fraudulent orders, that's probably the easiest thing to see, is mismatched billing and shipping addresses. Basically just the billing address does not match the shipping address, and a lot of times the names on those addresses will be different. In a credit card dispute case, the credit card company will almost always side with the customer if the billing and shipping addresses are mismatched. So that's a big thing to look out for. Especially a huge red flag is if the shipping address is to a foreign country or port city like Miami or Doral, Florida, and the billing address is in another state in the United States. That's almost always a stolen credit card. The second thing to look out for is the contents of the order. We don't really see a lot of fraud orders come in that are worth less than like 50 bucks. Usually they're gonna have a few really high-end products in them over $100, like booster boxes, booster cases, or high-end foils. So any order that you see with those, just naturally be on the lookout for. The third thing is the shipping options that the customer will choose. We don't really ever see fraudulent orders where they've chosen the cheap shipping like first class mail. It's almost always Priority Mail Express if you offer it, because they know that if they place an order with Priority Mail Express, there's more pressure on you to try to get the order shipped out as soon as possible, and you're more likely to rush to get the order out without really fully investigating whether or not it's fraud. If you see an order that you think is suspicious, but maybe you don't really see an issue with the billing and shipping address, to be better safe than sorry, you can always check the transaction in your Authorize.net account. We'd recommend looking up that transaction, which you can do by searching for the last 4 of the credit card used, which is logged in the order details, and just verify that the billing address on the transaction in your Authorize.net account matches what it says in the admin. Also, you can reach out to us on the chat. Like I said at the beginning of the video in the disclaimer, we're not experts, so we can't really give you a definitive answer on whether or not something is fraud, but we can certainly take a look at the order for you and let you know if we see any red flags that maybe you've missed. We also keep a database of all the addresses that have been reported to us as fraudulent, which you can do through the orders page. If you get a fraudulent order, there's a section on the order where you can put in the reason why it's fraud and mark it as fraudulent, and that adds the shipping address on the order to our database. Sometimes what happens is the customer will use a shipping address that's slightly different, so it won't always be marked as fraud, and in that case we can do a manual search through our fraudulent addresses database to see if we find anything that's close, like has a matching street address or things like that, if you find an order that is suspicious. And if you have any other questions, feel free to contact us, and thanks for tuning in.